Good morning. Putin's troops are getting ever closer to the capital of Ukraine. A military convoy stretching 40 miles has been pictured heading towards Kyiv. The country's second biggest city has once again been hit overnight. Ukraine's President Zelensky called that attack a war crime. The chief prosecutor of the International Criminal Court says he plans to open an investigation into possible crimes against humanity in Ukraine as the number of civilian deaths, including children, rises. Here's Chloe Keedy.
This is the moment a missile struck at the heart of Ukraine's second city. This morning, Kharkiv's Freedom Square is a smouldering ruin on the front line of Putin's war. This strike on an administrative building marks the start of a second day of bombardment for this city. Yesterday, Russian artillery attacked residential areas using what appeared to be cluster bombs, which are banned by many countries. Overnight, this bomb shelter was turned into a makeshift maternity ward, full of babies who don't yet know that they've been born into the middle of a bloody war. Speaking late last night, Ukraine's President Zelensky accused Russia of war crimes against his people.
Зло, озброєне ракетами, бомбами, артилерією треба зупинити негайно.
He said they're evil, armed with missiles, bombs and artillery. They must be stopped immediately and destroyed economically. To show that humanity is able to defend itself, it's necessary to consider a complete closure of the sky for Russian missiles, aircraft and helicopters. On the ground, Russian troops continue their slow advance towards Kyiv. These satellite images show a convoy of tanks and other armoured vehicles thought to be 40 miles long. To the northeast of the city, this was the aftermath of an airstrike on a military base. The UK government believes bombing at night is another tactic being used by Putin to try and reduce his losses.
What Putin will now try and do is wrest back control, and therefore we need to continue to put the pressure on Putin through sanctions, but also continue to steel the courageous defence and resilience of the Ukrainian forces.
In the past hour, the Prime Minister has arrived in Poland to meet his European allies. It is the latest diplomatic push to try and stop the crisis in Ukraine. Chloe Keedy, ITV News.
Our global security editor Rohit Kachru is in Kyiv and sent this update.
This morning we saw this almighty blast, which appeared to be targeting a historic building, a government administration building right in the heart of the city. And so I think for many people here in Kiev, it really sends a message that, you know, the Russian side is not backing down, despite all these reports that they have lost momentum, despite reports that morale is low. And those reports come, by the way, from intelligence agencies right around the world who do seem to have pretty good visibility of what's going on inside the Russian regime. Remember, they got it pretty much right, pretty much accurate in terms of what Putin's plans were. They've been warning about this over the last few weeks and months. But despite all that talk of lost momentum, you know, there is plenty in reserve for the Russian military.
Rohit Kachru there. Boris Johnson is visiting Eastern Europe today as part of diplomatic efforts to try to bring the war to an end. The Prime Minister has just arrived in Poland. Later, he'll visit troops in Estonia. Our political correspondent Daniel Hewitt has the details.
Well, the Prime Minister Boris Johnson has arrived in Poland this morning. He was greeted by the Polish Prime Minister, whom he's holding talks with this morning in response to the growing escalation of violence by Russia in Ukraine. Later today, he'll travel to Estonia, to NATO's border with Russia, where he'll meet NATO officials as well as British troops. It's all part of a diplomatic plan to garner more support for economic sanctions against Russia, to show a united front. Elsewhere, the Foreign Secretary Liz Truss is travelling to Geneva to the UN's Human Rights Council. She's expected to accuse the Kremlin in a speech of breaching human rights on an industrial scale, potentially paving the way for a UN resolution which could go as far as expelling Russia from the UN Security Council. That is something this morning the Justice Secretary and Deputy Prime Minister Dominic Raab said to me was firmly on the table.
Daniel Hewitt there. I'll be back with the very latest at 11. For now, though, bye-bye.